Welcome to another Wednesday meditation. We've all had a nice week to get stressed out, so we're going to dial that back a little bit, hopefully, today. So, if you're new, my name's Keith. I'm a meditation teacher, and we've been doing these for a while now. These Wednesday meditations? It's been a couple months, and the goal has been to kind of introduce people to another great shirt. Yes. This is my second favorite, the watermelons. Thanks, Ed. So we've been doing these Wednesday meditations to kind of introduce people to what meditation is and the different types of meditations we can do and the benefits we can get from them. It's sort of like a pretty wide net of meditation, because there's a lot you can get from this, out of this. So today we're going to kind of continue what we were talking about last week, with how we can train our mind to be happy, right? And that might seem kind of like out there, right? Like we're training our mind, right? It seems like a little out there, but it's very similar to training our body, which we are, quite familiar with, right? For, working out or, training for a race or something like that, right? At first, it might be a little hard, but what happens? We become more familiar with the activity, right? Become more, our muscles become more familiar with the activity, and it becomes easier, right? So it's the same thing with training our mind. At first we're training our mind to be happy, right? Like the happiness that we get from doing some of these things might be like fleeting, right? Like just a little bit here and there. But our mind is going to become more and more familiar with happiness, and it's going to become easier for our mind to go to our happy place. Right? So that's the concept. It's the same as working out or like training or something like that, training for like a race. So last week we looked at negative versus positive thoughts and emotions, and how we currently seem to kind of gravitate towards the negative side, and we want to gravitate towards the positive side. So we looked at like how we can start to shift our mind in that direction. So today we're going to ask ourselves a really important question. It's one of the most important questions, most important investigations we can do with meditation, and that is where does happiness come from, right? We're all trying to be happy, right? And we need to kind of think about, well, where does happiness come from? Where should I be looking for that, right? So that's what we're gonna do today. So we're gonna do a little breathing meditation to relax, right? To de-stress. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about this topic, and then we'll do a meditation on it. And please ask questions at any time. The only time I probably won't be able to answer your questions is when my eyes are closed when we're meditating, because I can't see the chat. But other than that, I will stop what I'm doing and answer that to the best of my ability. So we're going to start with a breathing meditation. And if you're brand new to meditation, a breathing meditation is like kind of where we start, and it's designed to relax us, to relax our mind, to relax the busyness in our mind, right? We don't even really notice it, but our mind is so busy all the time, a bombardment of thoughts, right? It's like if we had a still lake, raindrops are hitting the lake, we can't see the reflection, right? We can't see the reflection. First time participating, familiar with meditation. What kind of breathing meditation? Today, I'm going to do a black and white breathing meditation. And then we'll kind of get into our main topic, and I'll do like a contemplation meditation on that topic. But the goal of meditation in general is to familiarize ourselves with something, right? And so we are able to do that. We're going to familiarize our mind with happiness today. So we're able to do that more efficiently if our mind is in a relaxed, calm, peaceful place. Right. And you know this, like you experience this all the time, right? When your mind is anxious and busy and, all out of sorts, everything seems super hard. Everything seems really difficult, and we can't really focus on the things we want to focus on. So breathing meditation is extremely important for investigating like things about ourselves, learning things about ourselves, because we have to relax. We have to kind of cultivate a mind of like a peaceful, relaxed mind, so we can use it efficiently. That's the method, right? So the way we're going to do this is by focusing on one thing. It's called single pointed concentration. We're going to be focusing on one thing and one thing exclusively, our breath, right? And we're going to focus so much on our breath that the other thoughts that are normally bombarding us, bouncing around in our head all day, they're going to start to fade to the background a little bit. They're going to start to just kind of melt away. It's very similar to if you've ever been in the zone, like at work, you're working on a project or something like that. The distractions around you, they're not so distracting anymore. And so that's what we're going to intentionally do by focusing on our breath. And the breath's a great object to use to do this because we always have it with us. It's always in our tool belt. So if we get good at using our breath to relax, we start to feel kind of empowered that we can do this whenever, right? Because we always have our breath with us. We're very used to being able to use our breath as a method of relaxation, right? So this is what we're going to do now. We're going to, and then we'll set ourselves up to really investigate happiness by having a little bit more of a relaxed mind, even just a little bit, All right. So wherever you are is perfect. You don't have to change anything. If you're laying down, that's fine. Try not to fall asleep. If you're sitting up, great. Standing, I suppose, is okay, though it may be tiring. But you don't have to change anything. That's the beauty of this. You have everything you need to meditate and to meditate well right now. So just be comfortable. Like, be comfortable with how you're sitting or laying, and close your eyes and just follow along with what I'm saying. The first thing we do whenever we start a meditation is we check in with ourselves. How are you doing right now? How are you feeling? Are you tired, energetic, happy, sad, excited, nervous? Whatever it is, it does not matter. Just notice it. We're starting to practice mindfulness. You may have heard that word before. Mindfulness is monitoring our mind moment to moment, checking in with ourselves to see how we're feeling. It's a very important first step towards resolving any internal conflict that we have. So having checked in with ourselves, we can turn our full attention to our breathing. We breathe gently, naturally in and out through our nose. We don't have to take deep breaths or forcefully exhale, just very natural. In and out. Maybe we start to notice some of the sensations of breathing. Cool air on the tip of our nose as we breathe in, the warm air as we breathe out. Sometimes if our mind is extra busy, we can use a visualization of our breath to help guide us, to help calm us. So I want you to imagine that every time you breathe out, you are breathing out a dark smoke. And this dark smoke represents all of your stress, your anxiety, all of the thoughts from today, all of your busyness, your to-do list. Just breathe it out. Just imagine. Breathing out the dark smoke. Breathing out the dark smoke. Breathing out all of our stress. And after doing this, you may find that your mind is wandering. If your mind is wandering, that's fine. That's what minds do. Just when you notice, bring it back. Bring your attention back to breathing out all of your stress, breathing out the dark smoke. We can add on a visualization for our in-breath. So now, every time you breathe in, imagine you're breathing in warmth, sunlight, happiness. We're breathing in sunlight and we're breathing out dark smoke. Just work with that visualization for a little while. Allow yourself to relax. Allow yourself to breathe in the warmth, the sunlight, and breathe out the dark smoke. Keep bringing your attention back to your breath as many times as necessary. This is meditation. You are meditating. You are training your mind to relax all on your own. How wonderful. So just for the next couple moments, just enjoy breathing in and out. Allow yourself to relax into your breath, into your chair. Okay, great job. When you're ready, you can relax, open up your eyes, return to YouTube. How'd that go? So that's a there's a lot of different types of breathing meditations. Some of them have visualizations, some of them don't. Some of them will use counting to help. Pretty much the idea is it's like, there's different types of learners, right? There's auditory learners, there's visual learners. Everyone's going to connect with something different. So here we try to mix it up a little bit to see, what's going to connect with you. So, maybe you're a visual learner. Maybe the visualization of breathing out, like the dark smoke, breathing out your stress, like imagining that is helpful. And if not, you can try something else, like counting your breaths is a really good one too. But hopefully you found that a little bit relaxing. That's really our goal right now. That's it. Just to relax a little bit. Because if we can relax a little bit, then we're like, okay, well, I can expand upon that. Maybe next time I can relax a little bit more, right? Maybe next time I can focus my attention longer, just a little bit more, right? And we're going to build upon this. We're training our mind, just like we would train for a marathon by starting, running around the block. Okay. Any questions on that before we move on to our topic today, which is training our mind to be happy? Woo! Everybody wants that. I know there's a little delay, so I'll take a drink of water in case there's a question. If not, no worries. If anything pops up, do ask. Okay, so kind of part one of meditation is relaxing our mind. That's what we did with breathing meditation, right? Like if we use the analogy of the lake, right? We have a still lake. We can see the reflection. There's a bunch of raindrops. Now we can't see the reflection. That's our mind normally. We can't think clearly. Too much busyness. So we've cleared away some of the raindrops, right? Now we can see the reflection a little more clearly, right? Our mind is becoming a little more objective. It's a little wider, a little more open. We want to use this mind to do something. We don't just want to walk away now. We want to use this mind, this relaxed mind, to investigate something. We want to use it productively. So today we're going to investigate maybe the most important question we can ask ourselves, right? Where does happiness come from, right? So like finding happiness is sort of like this universal quest we're all on, right? Like literally everything we do, if you think about it, if you be honest with yourself and think about it, everything we do is in order to be happy, right? Or to be happier, right? Like, think of it. Look, what types of things have you tried? What types of things have you done, right? In an effort to like be happier, right? This kind of leads us to this, like, I call it like the if I could only like concept, right? So if I could only get this new job, right, then I'd be happy. If I could only find a partner, then I'd be happy, right? If I could only. And like there's a million things that we try to do. Like, if I could only get a Corvette, I don't know, maybe that's something that you want to do. There's like a million things, right, that we do to try to be happy. It's all in an effort to try to be happier, right? And so we have to think to ourselves, okay, I've gotten into many of my hobbies to pursue happiness. Yes, absolutely, right? And that's a very like positive thing, using like the pursuit of happiness to expand some of like our own talents, our own knowledge. We start to recognize that we like are way more capable than we thought we were, right? So, but we have to ask ourselves, right, in this quest for like lasting happiness, which is what we're really after, right? Lasting happiness. Has it worked? Has the things we've done worked? What do you think? Sometimes. Really? Nope. Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm getting. Question from significant other. My whole life I've been taught to learn how to do more things at a time. Am I doing life wrong? So you're talking about like multitasking, right? Like doing more, right? So multitasking is very good for accomplishing worldly tasks. Definitely. It is really bad for being relaxed and being peaceful. Multitasking is voluntarily making a bunch of thoughts bounce around in our head, right? And what is happening is that we're kind of like, we're doing the opposite of what we just did. Like we're not relaxing. We're like voluntarily making ourselves more anxious, more stressed, really. So are you doing life wrong? No, because like sometimes we need to multitask to accomplish things, but like we have to recognize that multitasking is not good for relaxing. So if we want to become a more relaxed person, if we want to become a more peaceful person, if we want to become a happier person, we have to work on not multitasking, enjoying life, enjoying the present moment. We've talked a lot about that, right? The present moment. But what is even happiness? Indeed, a deep question. Maybe we're gonna figure some of that out today. So, like, has it worked? The answer is these things we try to do. It works temporarily, right? So let's think about getting a new job, right? So we're like, if I could only I'm working on thankfulness and I having an attitude of gratitude. Happiness comes from within when you appreciate others. That is a very good message. We did an awesome class on gratitude, and yeah, 100%. You feel happier when you have like this mind of gratitude, 100%, right? And you're getting at where we're going with this class, right? But a lot of the times we kind of know that, but we don't practice it. We don't truly practice it. Like take getting a new job. If I can only get this new job, I'll be happy, right? So what happens? We get the new job, then we're like happy for a little while, right? We're like sometimes we're like super happy. It might even be for years. We're like, oh, it's great. That's happy. Got this job. I love it, right? But eventually, we're gonna get to the point where we feel like we need something else to get this lasting happiness, to get this kind of ultimate happiness we're after, right? We got to look for something. We're going to look for something else. In fact, sometimes the job becomes the thing that's making us unhappy, right? This job that was supposed to bring us this ultimate happiness is now bringing us misery. That's an interesting phenomenon, right? And the same for like if we're, if I can only find a partner, right? If I can only find, a partner to be with, right? And then we, maybe we do, and we're happy for a really long time. And then, you know what? Maybe then eventually we forget that like the partner was supposed to bring us this ultimate happiness, and we're like on to the next thing, or maybe they are now, we view them as our suffering, right? And this can work with more kind of nebulous, examples like anxiety. I've talked a lot about my anxiety. It's how I got into meditation here. So are we to look within at any moment to find happiness about something in that very moment? Sort of, but we need to train. Like we're not just going to be able to go there, right? So basically we need to like kind of logically think about this, and we need to come to a conclusion for ourselves. Don't listen to me. We got to come to a conclusion for ourselves. So I'm talking about my experience with it, but like this is the investigation part of meditation. It's very important. So like I talked about my anxiety. I have anxiety about itching, right? So I'll have an itch, and I just like, when is this going to go away? Not again. I can't believe this. Like, I just wish it would go away. If I could only get rid of this itching, then I'd be happy. Well, I have at some times done that, right? And I'm like, oh, I feel so much better, right? But then, sure enough, I'll find something else to be anxious about. My tinnitus, it went from my itching to my tinnitus, and I was fixated on my tinnitus, like anxious really about my tinnitus, right? So do you see a pattern here? Do you see a pattern with this, right? All these examples that we did. What do all these have in common? And you guys kind of touched on it. Hi, Brianna, don't worry about it. I'm glad you're here. We're talking about training our mind to be happy and thinking about where does happiness come from. So the kind of common thread of all of these, right? Whether it's searching, if I can only get the job, if I could only get a partner, if I can only get rid of this, painful feeling, right? These are all external sources, right? Can't do much about them, right? Something you can't control. That's very insightful. Yes. These are all external sources of happiness. They're temporary. Yes, they are temporary. Yes. Brilliant. All these are external, right? The solution is out there, right? The job out there, the partner out there, right? Not in here, out there, right? And if I can only get that thing out there, then I'll be happy. That's the common thread of what we're kind of looking at, right? External sources of happiness, right? So what is an external source of happiness? We have to kind of understand that in order to be able to like think of the opposite of like, should we be going a different route? So I like to define external sources of happiness as things that we feel are completely independent of our mind. It's a weird definition, right? So like take the job, right? We believe the job is out there, right? And if we get it, we'll be happy, right? If we get it, we'll have like this lasting happiness, right? We don't think that our mind, our perspective, our attitude, any of that has anything to do with the happiness we'll get. We think if we get the job, we'll be happy, right? That the job brings about happiness inherently, independent of us. Does that make sense? Independent of us, of our mind, of our attitudes. That's all mind. Yeah. So I think, one example I wanted to share is, I worked with a friend, we were doing meditation together, and she was having a problem at work. She was very unhappy with her job, very unhappy with the people there and the way, she was treated. And it was like this very, painful thing for her, right? And so, we did this kind of thought process together where I asked her to think about somebody who, maybe is working like 3 jobs to make ends meet and has no time to see their kids because they're always working. Think of somebody like that, right? And then plug them into your job, right? With the same people, the same environment, the same work schedule, literally everything the exact same, except that instead of you, it's this person, right? And how would they view that job? They might view that job as a blessing, right? Right? Now I can work one job. I can see my kids more, right? I have more disposable income, right? 2 people looking at the exact same situation, the exact same job with the same, literally everything the same, 2 completely different experiences of it. If the job itself brought about inherent happiness, right, like we were talking about, independent of us, then everyone, regardless of their situation, would experience that job as happy inducing, right? But my friend did not find this job happy, and this other person would find it like really quite happy, beneficial to them. So there has to be something else at play. It can't just be the job, right? And what I'm getting at is that the other thing at play is us. Yes, this idea of our mind. Like, what is our mind like? We believe the job makes our mind happy. But what if our happy mind made the job enjoyable? That's like the like flip it on its head, right? We kind of go about life thinking the former, right? That this thing will make me happy, right? But really, what's happening is if our mind is happy, positive, grateful, somebody mentioned gratitude, right? Then that experience is going to be happy, right? The mind plays a huge role in this. So does that make sense? Does that example like help at all? I always think about that when I teach this class, that conversation I had with her. I don't know why. It's just always has stuck with me. So we need to figure out, right, if there's an internal method of being happy, right? We have some onus on that. It's not just getting the job. Definitely helps. It's very thought-provoking. Yeah. And by the way, it's great to see you again. Thanks for coming here. You always have such great questions and comments. Yeah, it is thought-provoking. That's what we're trying to do. This is what meditation is about. It's about kind of shaking up our worldview a little bit so we can kind of think differently. So is there nothing external that can make you happy? No. That is not the takeaway. The takeaway is there are plenty of things that can make you happy externally, but it's temporary. It's not this lasting happiness. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So it makes sense, but how do I take away my anxiety about a situation that someone else would be happy, but I'm not? So like the example of anxiety, right? Is really interesting, and anxiety is like kind of like a deep issue, and it kind of might not be the best one to start with when we're familiarizing our mind with these kind of concepts. But right, I'll use my anxiety as an example, right? So itching, right? I have an itch and I am like panicked about it, right? You probably, I don't know, you have an itch and you're probably like, whatever, done. It's not like my itch is bad and your itch is good. Itch is an itch, but my mind is creating the pain of this itch. Your mind is like, this itch is very neutral to you, right? So we can start to think about this. If like the anxiety from it, if an itch was like inherently painful, then we would all experience that way, right? But a lot of it comes from within. A lot of it comes from our mind interacting with this thing that's making us anxious. Maybe itching is like weird for you because it's like, maybe that's a weird one. But So we just want to kind of, we want to just kind of think about that somebody else is experiencing this very differently than me. Why? Ask why. And you have to investigate this for yourself, right? Like this is what meditation is. We investigate. So if something is so stressful you can't get into a happy mind about it, is that a signal to change that circumstance? We're going to talk about that. Because this concept brings about a lot of these questions, and I want to clarify that. But first, I just want to kind of get back to like how we can go about gaining conviction in this concept, right? Because everyone here is like, yeah, happiness is a state of mind. We know that. You probably got a sign in your kitchen that says that. But like, are our actions indicating that we truly believe that? That's what we need to ask ourselves. Do our actions reflect that? Right? So what we need to do is we need to cultivate wisdom. We talked about wisdom, and we defined wisdom as the way things are versus the way they appear to be. A very cool definition, right? It appears that the job will bring us lasting happiness, right? If we kind of just take a step back and think about it, knowledge is useless unless it's applied. Oh, it's beautiful. I love that. Wow. Did you make that up? Copyright that, coin it or whatever. So like it appears that if we get the job, we'll be happy, right? That's what it appears to be. That's what it appears, right? But in reality, the way things are is that the happiness we get from that new job is fleeting. It's temporary. It will not last forever. It is like a changing wind, right? External sources bring fleeting, temporary happiness. And the reason that we continue to be unhappy is because we are not seeking temporary happiness. That is not what we want. We do not want temporary happiness. We want lasting happiness. We want to be permanently happy. That's our goal. That's our quest. That's our vision. That's our want. And we're looking for it in kind of the wrong place. It's like we're searching for buried treasure on the wrong island. Right? We're like, I know it's here. I just got to look. I just got to find it. It's out there. Maybe it's this. I'll get it. Maybe if it's over here. But we're on the wrong island. And this does not mean do not change your circumstances. And this is like, this question always comes up, and it's a brilliant question because this is exactly where our mind goes when we start to think about this, right? Is there a difference between happiness and fulfillment? Wow, that's a really interesting question. I guess it would depend on how you find fulfillment. I think of fulfillment as like temporary. Like I'm fulfilled, right? But like I know that like feeling of like being like totally satisfied is not going to last. So personally, I think there is a difference between that, right? And I think one is more like external focused than the other. But so I want to just make sure this is really clear. This does not mean do not change your external circumstances. Absolutely change your external circumstances, get the job, find the partner, buy the Corvette, do those things, right? Do those things. But do them with wisdom, knowing that these changes to your life, these external conditions, they will be a temporary happiness, right? We need to also spend time working on inside to kind of work on the lasting happiness. Oh, I found it in case Dale Carnegie. Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, it's great. I'm going to use that in a lesson. I'll credit you and Dale. So the goal is not to stop doing like things. The goal is to do those things with this wisdom, knowing that happiness is fleeting. It is. If we're honest with ourselves, we will see it is fleeting. We only need to think about our lives to realize that. And so we have to start working inside too, in conjunction with changing our external circumstances. And the interesting thing is, if we engage in changing our external circumstances with wisdom, with this knowledge, we're going to enjoy it more. We're going to enjoy those things more because we are going to appreciate the happiness knowing it's not going to always be there. Instead of kind of internally thinking it will, even if like subconsciously thinking it will, and then we're crushed when it doesn't. We're crushed when it goes away, right? So if we can engage in changing our circumstances with this wisdom while working on, some of our internal stuff with meditation and, contemplation and things like that, we're gonna enjoy those things more. We're not gonna be crushed when it comes to an end because we know that the happiness it brings is fleeting because it's an external source, right? And that goes into like a whole another thing about like impermanence and all this, which we'll talk about in another class. But does that make sense? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because I don't want the takeaway to be, well, I'm just gonna not do anything, I guess, Not the takeaway. The takeaway is do those things, but recognize that it's kind of like a temporary joy that you're getting from the new job or whatever, really, Does that make sense? And then we're going to do a meditation on this. Yes, it makes sense. Great. Yeah, this is really important, right? And who said it was thought provoking? Like, this is what we want to do. We want to investigate and see if what we think we know is the real thing, right? We want to use wisdom. We want to cultivate wisdom. We want to see if the way things are the way they appear to be, if those things are matching up, or if things are appearing one way and then when we investigate it's like, well, maybe getting the job is not like true lasting happiness. Maybe that's not it, So that's the concept of contemplation, using wisdom. Okay, so let's do a meditation on this. So I'm going to guide this meditation. We'll do a little breathing short, and then I'm going to guide the meditation, and it's like an analogy that I love. It was like one of the first analogies that when I started training in meditation and learning from many different teachers that really stuck with me. This analogy really stuck with me, and it is a analogy based on exactly what we're talking about: external versus internal sources of happiness. So let's do this, and then I can field any other questions you might have. And look, this is like a new thing we're thinking about, right? This is brand new, and so right now we just want to be provoked. We just want to be like, oh, that's interesting. I want to think about this more. That's where we want to be with this right now. Okay, let's do it. So again, wherever you are is fine. Don't have to change anything. And just be relaxed, be comfortable, and close your eyes and listen to what I'm going to say. Very quickly, just check in with yourself again. We're cultivating mindfulness, monitoring our mind moment to moment. How are you feeling in this moment right now? Just notice. And having checked in, we can turn our attention once again to our breathing. Just for a little while, to relax our mind, to open our mind for the contemplation we're going to engage in. So we can breathe in and out very naturally, very gently through our nose. You can pay attention to the sensations of breathing, the cool air on our nose as we breathe in, the warm air as we breathe out. Our shoulders rising as we breathe in and falling as we breathe out. See if you can follow your full in-breath and your full out-breath. And if your mind drifts, just gently guide it back, just like we did before. Gently guide your attention back to your breathing, to enjoying your full breath in and enjoying your full breath out. Keep bringing your attention back as many times as necessary. You are meditating. You are a meditator. You have the ability to calm your mind all on your own, independent of what's happening around you. How wonderful. So with our mind a little more relaxed from focusing on our breath, focusing exclusively on one thing, we can use this relaxed mind in a productive way. We can use it to investigate something. Today, we will be investigating where happiness comes from. So I'd like you to imagine that you open the door from your home or apartment to the outside, and you notice the ground is completely covered in thorns. Everywhere you look, the ground is covered in thorns. We need to go to the grocery store, so this is a bit of a problem. So what do? We can patch a path from our home to the grocery store, right? So we patch over the thorns. We work really hard. It's a long distance, but we make it. We make it to the grocery store. And we're relieved. We're relieved to be there. We did it. It feels good. And we go about our business. We go shopping. We get all the things we need. And we come back outside the grocery store. And then we remember we have to go to the post office. And so now we patch the ground from the grocery store to the post office. It's hard to do, but we make it, and we're relieved. We're happy. We did it. We go about our business in the post office, and now we have to go visit our friend. And so we patch the ground to our friend's house from the post office. But it's pretty hard to continue to do this, right? So we have to think, is there another way? Is there another way to get to where we need to go? And be able to avoid the thorns. Perhaps instead of patching the ground, we can patch our feet. We can cover our feet so that way, wherever we go, we are protected. In this analogy, patching the ground is what we do now, searching for happiness. If I could only get the new job. And we patch the ground to get the new job, and we're happy for a little while. But then eventually, something else comes up, something else that we need to be happy. And so now we patch the ground to that thing. And we do this over and over and over and over again. So instead of patching the ground, instead of exclusively looking for happiness from external places, let's patch our feet. Let's work on our inside, work on our mind, so that way, wherever we go, we will be happy. We will bring a happy mind to whatever we do. Just think about that for a little while. Think about where you have looked for happiness. Think about if it's been temporary or permanent. And just sit with the idea, the knowledge, the wisdom that lasting happiness does not come from external sources. It comes from within. And we can still seek these external changes. But let's start doing so knowing that they are fleeting. And empower us to work on our internal happiness. Work on having a happy mind, staying calm, staying positive. Okay. And when you're ready, you can relax, open your eyes. Luckily, the world is not covered in thorns, at least literally. How did that go? I really like that visualization. I think it's a really, it's always stuck with me. And I think it's a really good analogy, right? So like we work really hard to go to get all these different things, right? But like when we get there, we're like happy just for a little while, right? And then we got to work really hard and we go do the other thing, right? And that's fine. We should still go to the grocery store. We should still go to the post office, right? Not saying don't do that, but there's another way. There's another way. We're patching our feet. We're going to patch our feet, and our feet is our mind. Our feet is our heart, our love, us, internal. Brianna, that helped more than I thought it would. Great. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, it's look, this is all about familiarizing our mind, right? Our mind is not familiar with the idea that external sources of happiness are fleeting and internal sources of happiness are like our mind just doesn't think about that. So we have to train. We have to keep reminding it. That's what we're doing at the end, where I'm sit with that, right? So we think about something, right? We come to a conclusion, and then we sit with that conclusion. We familiarize our mind with that conclusion. And over time, it'll become easier for us to go there, to think that. It'll become natural to think that. An audience member here says this is very good. Thank you. Tell audience member thank you. The analogy personally attacked me. When I first heard the analogy, I'm like, oh, thorns. That's such a weird thing to use. I don't know. I just kind of kept it. But yeah. So ultimately, the takeaway I want you all to have from this is go and get those things that you want, but do so not expecting them to be the be all end all of your happiness, right? And instead, try to put a little time into working on you, to working on having a happy mind, to cultivating a peaceful mind. And we've done a lot of work on that, right? Right. All this, even doing breathing meditation, just 30 seconds every morning or whatever, that you're cultivating a happy mind. And you'll notice that if you bring a happy mind to the situation, then you enjoy the situation. I love the analogy. We can find happiness. Oh, I skipped one. Sorry. So when everything in my life personally inconveniences me, you're saying the world isn't wrong. I'm wrong. You're not wrong. It sucks to be inconvenienced, right? But we have to remember these things. That's part of mindfulness, is remembering what we've learned. Remember this conversation, right? The next time that you're, upset about something, or disappointed, right? That something fell apart, right? So we have to just kind of remind ourselves of this, but ultimately, yes, that's true. I love the analogy. We can find happiness in every experience, or perhaps contentment in every experience, even if it's a difficult one. Yeah. So we're all of that comes from shifting our perspective of where happiness comes from. We are shifting it comes from that thing out there that I am going to get, to it comes from in here. And then when I go and do that thing, I'm going to enjoy it because I'm happy. How exactly do we cultivate that mindset, though? Is it as simple as familiarizing ourselves? We can be happy regardless of the situation. Partially, yes, right? So familiarization, meditation is familiarization. It's literally like a synonym. Everything we experience all in our mind, anxiety, it's familiarization, and it becomes more potent the more familiar we are with it. I'll use the itching again, right? So whenever I itch, I'm so familiar with the label of itch equals bad that I immediately go there, like this, literally instantaneous. So my mind is so familiar with that it goes there. So if we can familiarize our mind with the idea that maybe that internal happiness is what we should be focusing on primarily, yeah, our mind is going to start to go there, right? And we also have to kind of couple that with the breathing meditation, right? Because that is actually training us to focus on one thing, focusing on one thing relaxes us. It relaxes our mind. And then we bring that peaceful mind to the activity. So it's kind of like a two-part. It's like a two-part thing with meditation. One is learning how to actually relax our mind. And then two is familiarizing our mind with positive concepts. That way our mind naturally goes there. I hope that makes sense. Sterilizing my groceries is easier than making all of my food myself. But I'm usually thinking that wiping my groceries sucks. It's a different time, man, isn't it? I think it also helps to remember that we have control how we react to any situation. Yeah. And that again, it's the same concept, right? We believe that the job inherently is good, and if we get it, it'll be good. We don't think that we have a part in that. We don't think our mind has a part in that, but we have control. We have the ability to enjoy or not enjoy anything, right? Some are harder than others, really, but it is possible. It's possible through familiarization, through investigation, through training our mind. Okay, I was thinking about how sometimes I use unhappiness as a motivator to get something done, meaning I'll be happy when the thing that was making me unhappy is finished. And that's not a bad thing, right? Again, do that, but know, right? Know in deep down the wisdom, right? That you getting this thing, right? That you want to be happy. It won't last forever. Is really the reality. It won't last forever, right? It's not like a permanent happiness, right? But yeah, seeking happiness is important. Seeking happiness is why we do everything in our life. It's the ultimate motivator. But maybe those things actually aren't thorns, and I just think that they are. That's a really profound outlook. It's a really profound takeaway from this, right? That we think these things that are painful, right? That we don't have control over them, but we can improve that through working on ourselves, right? And it doesn't mean that we're wrong for being upset or this and that. No, we're human. That's going to happen, right? But if we can engage in these things with wisdom, the next time my anxiety comes up, right? The next time my itching comes up, if I can engage in this being like, you know what? This itching, getting rid of this is not going to fix everything in my life. Even just that. I'm starting to chip away at that label that I've put on it. I'm starting to build my wisdom. So it's not necessarily that we're doing anything wrong pursuing happiness, but you should realize you can cultivate happiness internally as well, and it will be longer lasting. Yes, bravo. Yes, you win. That's exactly it. Go get those things. Live your life. Do those things, but do it knowing that those things the happiness won't be forever. And a lasting happiness comes from within. We have the ability to cultivate that through training our mind. Yes, 100%. I couldn't have said it better. In fact, I said it worse. So I should have just left your comments. Okay, so that was a lot of information, but this is a really important thing to think about. And that's all I want you to do is just think about this. Just let it roll around in your mind, all right? Stir up your mind a little bit with this. And it's intriguing. It's thought-provoking. And investigate it and see, is there truth to this? Investigate that for yourself and see. Ed will not be buying a Corvette. Neither will I. Are Corvettes even cool? I don't even know anymore. Why have I lived for 27 years and have no idea of this concept, honestly? Well, it's really interesting, right? Nobody teaches you this stuff. You go to school and college, and you learn math and science and history and geometry. Nobody teaches you about your mind. Nobody teaches you how important understanding your own mind is. It's a huge gap in learning. So be thankful that you're learning now. But I agree. All right. So that's good for today. Next week is a new week. Sometimes I know, sometimes I don't. I don't know what we're going to meditate on next week, but hopefully it will be as enjoyable as this. If you have enjoyed this, first of all, thank you for being here, because I couldn't do this without you. So I have a lot of gratitude to all of you both the people who come every week and people who are new here for the first time. So thank you. If you have enjoyed this, come next week. Bring a friend. That'd be cool for me. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would also be cool for me. You get notifications when I'm going live if you forget, right? You got a busy Wednesday, and you're like, oh, it's meditation time. So that'll be helpful to you maybe. And also, I do private sessions, which is really, really good if you want to focus in on specific problems you're having or specific areas that you're struggling in. So I offer private meditation instruction, private guided meditation. I also do stuff for workplaces and schools. So if you found this cool and you'd like to kind of introduce it into your life in some capacity, there's a lot of options to do that. And you can find out more about that on my website, meditationbreaks.com. I feel like I never say that, but there's a big meditation breaks over my forehead, so maybe I don't need to. I truly wish mindfulness was something we were taught, but I'm glad I'm learning now. Yeah, and look, it is definitely becoming more like regularly taught, especially in like schools are starting to introduce it, right? So that's great. We're heading in the right direction. But yeah, like this stuff is really important for our happiness, for enjoying our life. And unfortunately, it's not really taught. We have to kind of get lucky and come across it, really. So you guys are lucky. I'm lucky to have come across it as well. All right. Thank you guys. This has been great. This was a great session. So go work on that internal happiness. Okay. Watch out for the thorns. All right. See ya.